I'm also moved by it.
Yes. Yes, tell me about that. What moves you?
You talking to me?
There it is. Tombstone.
Let's go.
Hi, and welcome back to the Pretentious Film Bro podcast, where it is our mission to break down stereotypes and build connections through film. My name is Brady Odom, and I'm joined here with my co-host Nolan Jones, and we are continuing to go through our marathon, which is about a director or an auteur or a filmography, and the director we chose, as we discussed in our recent video, is John Ford. In our last episode, we were able to go through and discuss the character mishmash that is Stagecoach. The reason that movie works as well as it does, at least for Nolan and I, is the abounding depth and joy and tragedy and comedy that comes from the characters that are in Stagecoach. For this episode, we are going to be discussing the next film in our marathon. As we also mentioned, we're going in chronological order. Now, of course, this film is not necessarily the film that followed Stagecoach immediately, but it is another classic that a lot of people know. And this film is My Darling Clementine. No, the film is not the reason for the song. The song definitely came before the film. In fact, when you watch the film, in the opening credits, you have the song My Darling Clementine plays through as you start to see all of the cast and the crew and all the people that they think in the opening credits in this movie. What this movie does depict, and something Nolan and I will kind of discuss further, is the true story-ish, we'll say, of Wyatt Earp. And Wyatt Earp is a character who was a marshal. He leaves his town, goes to the town that is titled Tombstone, which if you've seen the movie Tombstone with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, that movie is sort of a retelling of the same story with the same type of characters and their same, we'll say, persona. My Darling Clementine came out in 1946. So this took place, or in John Ford's career, 7 years after Stagecoach. Stagecoach was a low-budget movie that was about $500,000. Now, of course, at that time, that was higher, but still fairly low budget, even in that time period. My Darling Clementine, they upped the ante a little bit, from $500,000 to $2 million. And as I'm very interested to hear Nolan's thoughts on this film, you can tell. You can tell the difference as far as the money being allocated for the production design that is in this film, for the black and white cinematography and photography that is within this film. The way it flows. Stagecoach, we kind of discussed, it sort of flows like a stage play. My Darling Clementine is a good old-fashioned 1940s Western. It feels more like the movies your family probably grew up on. Your grandpa probably turned on, 10 times a week when they were, having some quality TV time. And in my opinion, it's a classic. I am very glad that we got to watch Henry Fonda chew up the role that is Wyatt Earp. And so, Nolan, before I go any further discussing my opinions on the film, I would love to hear from you to see what you thought as far as your opinions on the film of My Darling Clementine went.
Yeah, this is one that I've kind of had on and off my radar for a little while now. Really, since I started collecting movies seriously, collecting bougie movies seriously, as with Stagecoach, My Darling Clementine is one of the John Ford films that are actually a part of the Criterion Collection. So I'd heard of My Darling Clementine. I'd always kind of been intrigued by the film, also largely in part because of the song that we all know. The mining song from late 1800s, I believe, is what My Darling Clementine originally was. Also originally a super tragic song where Clementine, the line "you are lost and gone forever," means Clementine died. The song is definitely much more tragic than the film.
Mm.
But as you noted, the difference in production and of production value money put into this film, that makes absolute perfect sense. Because the first thing I noted when I turned on My Darling Clementine was the clear uptake in the clarity of the image. From Stagecoach, which looks very fuzzy, very grainy, which it has that appeal. There's a lot of appeal to that fuzzy, grainy kind of look of a film, especially an older film. My Darling Clementine is super clear. I mean, you can see just absolutely everything in this film. There's nothing hidden by camera or by grain. You can tell just in the production that they upped the ante. And you can see it throughout the film from the settings that they built in the town of Tombstone, or I don't know if they built them or not, but the different locations that you have in Tombstone, there's more shootouts, there's more visual shootouts where you actually see the shooting going on. A lot of it is more able to be shown on screen. There's much more action in My Darling Clementine than there is in a film like Stagecoach. So you can see all of those things where the budget went to. Yeah, that was one of the first things, like you mentioned, Tombstone and the connection to the 1999, I believe, film. It's one of the first things I kind of thought of as I looked up these films, and they are both retellings of legend or the life of Wyatt Earp. And I noticed there's actually a third film called Wyatt Earp that came out in the 2010s, I believe. That is another way of just reinterpreting or retelling the legend of this sheriff. So whereas I fell pretty quickly for Stagecoach, for My Darling Clementine, I loved the two lead performances. I thought Wyatt Earp was fantastic. I really loved in the beginning where you've got Wyatt Earp introducing himself. And you just knew when he introduced himself to people, if they were do-gooders, they knew of his reputation as a sheriff. It had preceded him. And if they were no good doers, they knew of his reputation as a sheriff. And the minute he said Wyatt Earp, you saw it in their faces. They were like, oh, crap.
Mm-hmm.
He's in town. And then you've got, of course, the other iconic performance in this film is Doc Holliday.
Mm-hmm.
And these two men, I thought, were fantastic. They oozed charisma on the screen. The relationship between the two of them was great. It was entertaining. It was fleshed out and layered. And that was the strongest parts of this film for me. Which I'm really encouraged, because I think you fell for this film, if I'm reading you right. And
almost an instant 5-star classic for me.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was.
Head over heels for My Darling Clementine.
I am so glad. I love it when you fall for a film that I'm more lukewarm on or whatever, because then that really gives us, instead of Stagecoach, where we were both praising the film the whole time and all the things we loved, this will be a more balanced discussion. And not to say that there were things about Clementine that I hated. I didn't hate the film. I think it's a very solid film. I think maybe I had built up this film so much in my mind, and then it was something different than what I expected. I didn't know it was a story about Wyatt Earp. I didn't know that it took place in the town of Tombstone.
I had no idea. That actually was a very pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this Marshall, and we'll talk more about it as we get into characters and things.
Right.
But when you introduce Wyatt Earp, when you look up at him, it's almost like he's on this pedestal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because of the way they were framing him, right?
Absolutely.
Like, why are they framing this guy? Like Henry, okay, I get it, it's Henry Fonda.
Right,
what
right.
A man. And I just am looking at it, I'm like, okay, that's reminding me of the John Wayne, like, again, talking about John Ford, the mythic, like, creator, the myth creator. Yep. That's what I felt when I saw Henry Fonda's character. So I was also very thrown by it being a Wyatt Earp story. That maybe is a lack in my film knowledge that I didn't realize that that's what it was about.
Right.
But that was a nice surprise for me. I appreciated that.
Yeah. And I did. I really appreciated My Darling Clementine all the way through and what it was doing. I think my expectations maybe were different than what the film was, and maybe that created a little bit of a disconnect. But for sure, I mean, for me, just the first time through watching this film, the standout was Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. These two men just had a great chemistry with each other.
I see we're in opposite camps, Marshal. Draw.
Can't.
We can take care of that easily enough. Mac?
When the two of them were on screen together, those were the best moments of this film.
I do agree with that. For the record, the very initial scene with, and we'll again talk about it as we move forward, because the scenes are going to be different the way than we discussed about Stagecoach, because Stagecoach was about the excitement and just the scale that they're able to get to in Stagecoach. Where in this one, it's very, very small because it's between two men. But that scene with the champagne, the bravado in that moment was engrossing. So I'm very excited to discuss that further. But yes, I 100% agree with you. The two men, when they're together,
they absolutely lit up this screen. Yeah. And what also I think threw me about this film too is this really isn't a film about Clementine at all.
No.
This film 40 minutes in before I think we even see Clementine. This is very much I hate to use this term because of the way it's been used throughout recent years, but I'm going to use it anyways because this is the only one. This is a bromance between Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. And that's really what makes this film work for me. My initial reaction, I enjoyed My Darling Clementine. I enjoyed a lot of what it was doing. But for me, this wasn't one that I was like, it was the top. For me, Stagecoach is still pulling ahead in the race for the best Ford film of our marathon.
Okay. Yeah, so as far as the star rating, where would you, as of right now, are you thinking 3?
Yeah. This is a strong 3.
A strong 3, okay. Yeah, when I was watching it, I think because I was so blown away, for one, by the night scenes, the way this movie looks at night is pretty breathtaking. And the tone from the first moment, it knew exactly the movie it wanted to be from the first scene. And it doesn't lose it throughout the entire runtime. And for me, I was hook, line, and sinker the entire time. From the first moment we meet Henry Fonda and this elevated pedestal, when he's showing you the kind of man he is by turning down the offer that this other man was offering him. You learn this guy is pretty cool. And it's about 20 minutes before you learn that this man's name is Wyatt Earp. And you could tell John Ford's intentionality with crafting the myth of Wyatt Earp, which is very interesting because John Ford actually, years before, had talked with the real life Wyatt Earp in the last days of his life.
Okay.
And John Ford got insight. He got what he wanted from him. And he took it, and with the help of his writers and himself, he decided he wanted to change the story a little bit of the shoot at the OK Corral. And there was actually a critic who talked to him and said, well, why would you change the story if you got the exact story from the man himself, as you claimed you discussed this with? To which John Ford responded, which I think is just like, oh, I love it. He responded with, did you like the movie? And he said, well, yeah, it's one of my favorites. He goes, then what more do you want? And I thought that is the perfect. I think that for me, that's when I realized John Ford, the depiction David Lynch has of John Ford and the Fablemans, is exactly what
the man
John
was.
Ford was probably like. And I respect the AG double hockey sticks out for it. Because why are you arguing with a man? It's like, if you like the movie, why do you care? Like, just enjoy the movie. And so for My Darling Clementine, I will say I do agree that it's definitely more the story about Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. But I don't think Clementine is as removed from it as you might think.
Okay.
And here's my reasoning for it. Clementine comes in probably halfway through the film. You don't meet Clementine for a while.
Right.
In fact, you start to think, is Clementine this sort of promiscuous prostitute?
The bar girl. Yeah.
Yeah, throwing her
The
leg.
performer, the dancer.
Yeah, Chihuahua. She's throwing her leg up on the table. She's trying to get the attention of Wyatt Earp, to which Wyatt Earp has absolutely nothing for her. He doesn't even pay her the time of day until she comes over. And finally, he looks up at her, to which results in, we'll say, a trough. We'll talk about that as far as scenes go, because that was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. That whole first kind of where Wyatt Earp is being integrated into the town.
Yes, and so the thing about Wyatt Earp is you learn that his brother was murdered. And the big thing that they show, because it's in 1946, they haven't quite learned subtlety as far as highlighting what will come back to sort of tie into an event that you see earlier in the film.
Right.
You have Wyatt Earp he's made a grave for his brother. I believe it's James.
That sounds right.
He's made this grave for him. And it's a very moving moment. And he is sort of his brother was only 18 when he died. And he
was engaged. Or he was about to be engaged.
Yes. And it's a very tragic thing. But Wyatt Earp doesn't handle it with this, again, over sentimentality. The thing I'm learning about John Ford is, even if he's only in it for the money, the way he's able to direct these characters with sincerity is incredible. Because Henry Fonda handles this scene really well, and you realize that he's hurting, not because for himself, but for his father. He's like, Pa may never get over it. And what a moment that is. And Wyatt Earp decides to become the marshal. That scene's also very funny. I can't wait to talk about. The scenes in this movie are just top tier. But he decides to become the marshal in this town, and Doc Holliday comes back, and Doc Holliday is this guy who's basically, he's the one who runs the town. Everybody respects Doc Holliday. This new Wyatt Earp guy, he can take a hike, because this is who we're here for, right?
Pretty much.
So Doc Holliday comes in, and there is this, again, that bravado. You can sense this measuring contest.
Very much so. Yep.
And it's just a very tense scene that is just played between the two tremendously. And that's when you learn that's when you learn who these people are going to be. You get everything you need to know about Doc Holliday, and you get everything you need to know about Wyatt Earp. You had a feeling about Wyatt Earp to this point because we've been following him, and now you know Doc Holliday. He's arrogant, but he's also hurting. He's sick, and his pride's getting the best of him. But this brings us to Clementine. Clementine shows up, and she's there to see Dr. John Holliday.
Who nobody knows who he is, by the way.
No one knows who Dr. John Holliday is. We know who Doc Holliday is. Because every time she asks for him, they say, "You mean Doc Holliday?" To which she's like, "Yes, Dr. John Holliday." You're like, "Oh, interesting." So she goes, and you realize there was a past with these two.
Mm-hmm.
And Clementine now is seeing that there's probably no future with the two of them. But she does like this Wyatt Earp guy. Because Wyatt Earp, he's a man of justice. He's a man of principle. And Doc Holliday doesn't seem to be a man of anything.
Not anymore.
He's a man for himself.
Yeah, it seems like Wyatt Earp is now what Doc Holliday used to be.
Yes. And that's what makes it interesting. Because much like Stagecoach with the character arcs, the character arc that Doc Holliday goes on is one for the books, if you ask me. It is a fantastic, well-written character arc for him. And where Stagecoach sort of has these big, epic moments, My Darling Clementine kind of substitute them for more quiet, intense moments. It takes out the huge, big chase scene.
Yep.
There's maybe some element of it in My Darling Clementine, but not to the same extent.
No.
It's much more concealed. And so I think, unless you have something else to add about the story, I will say that the story is not so much about the characters as Stagecoaches.
Right.
Stagecoach, the characters are the story. I will say in My Darling Clementine, the characters are in the story.
Yeah.
And it's
the story is the story.
Yes, it's leading to a point. You're not necessarily watching it because you're trying to capture everybody's kind of fleshed out history. It doesn't do that much. It's definitely more about the story.
Yeah.
And so, however, the characters, all the ones that are important, they are equally, they are, in my opinion, equally as enticing as the characters in Stagecoach for different reasons.
Absolutely.
And so I do believe Clementine Carter is a little bit more important than it might seem on the surface. And so I think with that, unless you have something else you'd like to add to the story, we discuss characters.
Yeah. Well, just to briefly overview the story here, all out spoiler brief of the story. So Wyatt Earp is with his other three brothers, one of which is James, who's the brother who's killed, and they're running cattle. They come across this man and his son, the Clayton family. Clayton's the old man, and then one of his sons is with him. And they try to buy these cattle, these hundreds of heads of cattle that the Earp boys are running. They kind of brush them off. They say, no, we're not going to do that. And all three of the Earp boys, save for James, go into town. And when they get back that night from town, all their cattle are missing, and James is dead. And this is what causes Wyatt to go in, and he's like, all right, you still want me to be your marshal? I'll be your marshal. My brothers are going to be my deputies. And really, again, as all good Westerns, the story of My Darling Clementine revolves a lot around revenge. Mm-hmm. It revolves around Wyatt Earp is now the sheriff because he wants to find out who killed his brother, and he wants to make it right. And that's his driving force. That's why he is in town. That's as long as he's going to stay in town. I think he even says something to Doc Holliday at one point of the likes of he's going to be in town as long as he has to be, or until, I don't remember exactly the words he plays, but he lines on that he's not going to be in town forever. He's going to be there as long as he needs to be to figure out what happened to his brother and to make it right. Then, of course, as he's integrating into the town, people are kind of they're dancing around him. They don't think he's that big of a deal. They've had plenty of sheriffs that have gone in before. They haven't really done anything to clean up the town. But then here comes Doc Holliday. And as you mentioned, Doc Holliday is the man they respect. He shows up. He reads Wyatt Earp the Riot Act. Wyatt Earp says, no, this is the way I'm going to do it. They start to build this bond and this relationship and this back and forth. And then Clementine shows up, and then she changes the story, and she kind of starts to fall for Earp. And Doc Holliday wants her to leave because he's dying. He's sick. He doesn't.
It's a reminder.
Yeah.
Because Clementine holds him accountable.
Yeah.
Because Clementine wants him to be a better man, and he's at a point in his life where he doesn't want that. He wants to drink himself into a grave.
Really to the end. But yeah, and then she comes up. Again, shootouts happen. Things are revealed, all leading up to the gunfight at the OK Corral. And we have the gunfight, the dust settles, and off into the sunset rides the lone cowboy this time. Riding off with his brothers. He's going home. He's going to tell his dad everything that's happened. And he says, maybe one day I'll make it back through. Maybe one day I'll come back to Tombstone. But, as all good Westerns, once the cowboy leaves, the town's a little bit better for it. Mm. And there's a little bit more hope. And the people that are left there are starting to maybe build up some good in the town. They've already started raising funds to build a church we've seen earlier in the film. Now they're talking about building a schoolhouse. And there's just a little more hope as the lone cowboy, lone hero rides away. So, yeah, with that, we can go ahead and we can move right on into the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought about touching on these people for the story because they do play a pivotal point in the story. But I thought it'd be more interesting to talk about them as characters. And that's the Clanton family. Mm-hmm. The Clanton family is basically the bizarro Earp family.
Okay.
And these are the people who are responsible for the death of Wyatt Earp's brother, James.
And the thievery of their cattle. Not as big of a deal as the death, but all in the same.
And this is found out because James talks about this piece of silver that him and his brother had gotten when they had gone to the city. And later on, Chihuahua, who is this prostitute who thinks of Doc Holliday's in love with her, but she doesn't realize he's a selfish man who really only, is in it for his good.
Right. Naturally.
She lies and claims that he gave her this silver. Until later on, when Wyatt Earp approaches him because he's going to arrest him for the death of his brother, there's a revelation that, Doc Holliday's not the one who gave me this silver. It's Billy Clanton, the son of Old Man Clanton. So that's when they realize that's who's responsible for the death of my brother.
Which we, as discerning audience members, knew the whole time.
Of course.
Early
when you first meet them, they're scoundrels. Mm-hmm. Right?
And Wyatt Earp probably knew it the whole time, too. And he just didn't have the proof.
Being the man he is, he's not going to act on intuition. He's going to act on facts.
Right.
He's going to act on actual evidence. So you meet Old Man Clanton, who's played by Walter Brennan. Walter Brennan, it also should be noted, had won 3 Oscars in his career before My Darling Clementine. And there was a discussion. Walter Brennan and John Ford did not get along. They actually were at odds for the majority of the shoot. And there's a scene where Old Man Clanton goes to get on a horse to go into town because they're going to flush out, Wyatt Earp. They're going to get rid of him and hopefully Doc Holliday and the Clanton family will run Tombstone. Well, during the filming of that scene, Walter Brennan had trouble saddling a horse. So John Ford yelled at him, was like, "Don't you know how to saddle a horse? Don't you have any clue what you're doing?" To which Walter Brennan responded, "No, but I have won 3 Oscars. And I think that's also the perfect attitude to come back at John Ford with.
Mm-hmm.
Because John Ford, he didn't take any crap, and he gave it all the time. And you know what? Give it back to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't let him run over you. But it's clear that Walter Brennan, for as small a role as he has very intense moments.
Oh,
And
the film's not the same without him.
It isn't. And
it revolves around him.
Formidable foe.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes his comeuppance, obviously. Right? Because you know it's coming. It's a Western. You know the bad guy's going to be taken down. It's a Western in the 40s. You know the bad guy's going to lose. Okay? They're not doing this whole he gets off on his own, right?
No.
It's actually a very kind of funny way that he dies because Wyatt even says, I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to kill you. To which he goes striding off on a horse. And old man Clanton has his chance to just leave. But he turns around, pulls his gun out, and then he gets shot by one of the townsfolk that is with him, right? It's not his brother, because his other brother had passed, right?
He had 2 brothers, so it was his one living brother.
That was his one living brother, because Morgan ended up dying later on, right? And Virgil was the only living one left. So Virgil's the one who shoots him, essentially revenge, right? Well, Wyatt Earp gets to sort of keep his plate clean. He gets to keep his hands clean of blood in that regard. His brother still takes care of business. The Earp brothers are not... They're definitely supporting characters. They're not fleshed out, but they don't need to be.
No.
Right? 2 of them die. So that's probably why they don't flesh them out as much, because the audience isn't coming to watch a tragic Western. They're coming to watch a Western. Right?
They're coming to watch Earp and Doc Holliday.
Yes. And so the Clanton family versus the Earp family is a very interesting dynamic. Because you think, like you said, it's a bromance out of mutual respect, but there's also a mutual animosity towards each other between Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. So it essentially becomes the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
And Doc Holliday, when he realizes that the Clanton family is responsible, he decides he's going to actually man up and he's going to help Wyatt Earp take care of business. So you get to see...
And it's not even that. Like, he's there and he's not going to stop Wyatt Earp. But it's, again, spoiler moment, it's after he hears of Chihuahua's death. That's when he decides that he's going to actually load his gun and he's going to go get revenge for the death of Chihuahua, who was also killed by the Earp brother he was killed by Wyatt Earp. She was killed by the Clanton brother who Wyatt Earp killed. There we go. Words are hard.
Yeah.
Moving on.
You're good. And Doc Holliday is actually the one who operates on her.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to save her life, but it's to no avail. And it's really interesting because he comes out and Clementine says to him, I'm proud of you. And his response, which is perfect because I'm telling you, John Ford, he picked the good writers. He just looks at her and he goes, she was brave. He finally decides it's not all about him. And he takes off the pity party hat and he throws it to the side and he decides, you know what, actually, she's the one who did good. I did what I was supposed to. She's the one who did good. She was brave. Very moving moment. One of those things that's just, for me, one of the many things that adds up to the whole of My Darling Clementine.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn about Doc Holliday's character, right? Because when you first meet him, he's sort of a mythos himself.
Yep.
You hear about Doc Holliday coming back into town. Chihuahua's excited. She's asking the bartender, which the bartender also has a great line as well that we'll talk about.
We will.
But the bartender is telling her, like, he says he's coming back in. I don't know when we'll see him. And finally, Doc Holliday shows up. and he notices Wyatt Earp, and the measuring contest begins, and that is just some good stuff. Wyatt Earp, his character, doesn't go through much of an arc, but it's really nice because he's principled the entire time. And I would argue the one arc that he does kind of have is opening himself up to be in a relationship with Clem.
Yep, I would agree.
Where he decides, I could possibly love someone. I could possibly be with someone. Because Clementine, she's a catch. She is. She's a kind-hearted soul. She does not fit in Tombstone.
No.
Because that's the other thing you get to learn, which I think Tombstone as a town is another character. Right?
Right.
Because they're going to this play, right? They're going to go listen to this play, and then of course the play is canceled because the man isn't there. He's been taken by these other people, and the town riots and is picking up benches and coming to like hurt the man. And Wyatt Earp walks, he's like, "Whoa, why are you guys losing your minds?"
He almost lets them do it too.
Yeah, he does.
He goes, "Well, that sounds reasonable to me."
They say it's happened 4 times, right? That he's promised that there's going to be some kind of entertainment, and there's no entertainment.
So they make their own entertainment. Yeah, Tombstone is a absolutely lawless town. It is what you think of when you think of the old Western town that's ran by the outlaw that the sheriff's got to come in and clean up. That's Tombstone.
Yeah.
I mean, Wyatt Earp's first night there, when they just roll into Tombstone just to stay the night, he goes to get a shave. That's all the man wants is a peaceful shave. And as soon as he's laid back in that chair, ding! Bullets start flying into the barbershop. He's like, what kind of town is this where a man can't even get a shave in peace without bullets flying everywhere? Mm-hmm. I mean, Tombstone is it is a character all in and of itself. I mean, it's the titular character of the 1999 remake, Tombstone. So the town is quite significant in that way.
And Tombstone that's essentially why they wanted him to be the marshal, right? Mm-hmm. Because after the bullets fly, Wyatt Earp's the guy who sneaks in up top and beats him up downstairs and comes dragging him out by his neck. It's like, I took care of business. And they're like, you want to be the marshal? And so Wyatt Earp is realizing that this is a pretty lawless town. And I think it's actually his brother Virgil who said, there's a lot of nice people in this town. It just seems we haven't met them. And you're like, yeah, that's the lawlessness of Tombstone. There isn't. It feels like, and it's funny because what's the first thing you hear about Tombstone at the very beginning? He's talking to that man who's offering all this kind of money for his cattle.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting when you think about that might have saved his brother.
Probably would have.
Interesting to think about, but
yeah.
They say that Tombstone's a nice town. Oh, it's a wonderful town. Right over there, you're like, well, what does that say about that guy? Because Tombstone is not a wonderful town. It's filled with prostitutes who run the land and drunk doctors who are also the marshal and crazy rioters because they can't listen to their Shakespeare quotes. It is insane. And
it's a wild town.
Tombstone as a town is a very interesting character and element. And so I would say that my favorite character is probably Clementine.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because she's the glue. She's the one who encourages Doc Holliday when he is at the lowest moment in his life. When he's at the lowest moment because he couldn't save Chihuahua.
Mm-hmm.
When he's at the lowest moment, she said, "You did good. I'm proud of you." Even after Doc Holliday kept threatening to throw her out of town. She's kind to Earp, and she's not leading him on. And there isn't even a moment of, I need you to be here with me. She's very selfless. When he says, I need to go tell my pa what's happened, she understands. She realizes, and she sticks out a Tombstone like a sore thumb. right? She
Right.
does not belong in the town of Tombstone. This is a sophisticated, well-meaning, principled woman, and these are lawless heathens that she's surrounding herself with.
That's true.
And you can tell Clementine is also a very clear character of who Doc Holliday used to be. Because that Doc Holliday would never be with that Clementine now.
No.
So who was he before? And she says a lot about his character just by existing.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's able to be her own character and define the previous character of another one, that's pretty impressive. And she plays it well. She doesn't overact. She does subtle acting. She's not acting the most. She's not loud and boisterous.
No.
But the movie's named after her for a reason. Clementine is a personification of good, of hope. And she has her own theme song. It plays every time she's like introduced on screen. When she first shows up, you start hearing the song. And even later on, Wyatt Earp is whistling the tune as he walks in right before he finds her, and then it's playing at the very end as well.
Yep.
And so I do think that while Wyatt Earp doesn't go through a transformation, the steadiness of his character, I think, is also partially due to Clementine.
Yeah.
And I think Doc Holliday, the transformation of his character, is partly due to Clementine and Chihuahua. Right? Clementine does have, she's that reminder for him that he used to be good. He used to be worth his salt. And he still does have the fastest draw in all of Tombstone. And that's proven because they're out and Wyatt Earp's about to arrest him, and in a very quick moment, he shoots the gun right out of Wyatt Earp's hand. You're not beating him. Because in Tombstone, you even learn, as sick as he is in Tombstone, Val Kilmer, where he delivers a really popular line, "I'll be your Huckleberry." That you learn he's fastest draw in all of Tombstone. Even if he's not the most principled, he's going to beat you.
Yep.
And so, even as a sick man, he's going to win.
Yep.
And so, I believe the characters, especially because they're based partially on real humans, the legend making kind of, the reality of them existing beforehand lended to the legend making that John Ford's able to accomplish.
Right. Of course.
And I think that is truly remarkable and makes for classic Western cinema, classic cinema in general.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the characters they're tremendous.
Yeah, I definitely favored of all of them Doc Holliday the most. And Chihuahua was a close second just because of how entertaining she was.
I'm Chihuahua. I'm Doc Holliday's girl. Just wanted to make sure you were packing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Clementine came into the screen, you mentioned it. She is the epitome of virtue. She is the epitome of beauty and of hope and of class. She really is the antithesis of everything that the American West was. And I say that as somebody who has no personal knowledge of what the American West was. Just the ethos of what the American West was. She is the absolute other side of the coin of all of it. And I'm glad that worked for you. And I think you had the intended response and what most people would respond to the film. For me, that just made her where she did feel like a stand-in. As that virtue, as that image of chastity and purity that these two men are chasing for, or really that Wyatt Earp kind of comes to chase for, but Doc Holliday is trying to get as far away from him as possible.
Yes, which is something we'll talk about too.
Yeah, so for me, that made her, I understood her, I knew her purpose, but I guess maybe it made her less interesting. I guess maybe that's a hot take to say, I'm sure, especially the movie being named after her. But it just felt she felt to me like an idea, much more than a realized person. And I think that was the intent.
Mm-hmm.
I just think coming off of Stagecoach, where all these people were realized people, even Miss Mallory, who I wrote him talking about Stagecoach, I was like, man, this woman's driving me crazy. Like everything that Miss Mallory was as virtue and purity and this nose stiffery, snobbery, minus the snobbery part because Clementine doesn't have an ounce of snobbery in her. But everything that Mallory was, Clementine just took up times 10. And to me, that made her feel less human and more of an idea, which I think was Ford's point. But just to me, it made her significant to the film, but less interesting.
Okay.
For me, Doc Holliday was always the most interesting part. And really, even Chihuahua was incredibly interesting to me because, again, these are more fleshed out, raw people. Even Wyatt Earp being this perfect gunslinging hero because of his unmovable virtue and his perfection, quote unquote. He just wasn't as interesting to me as Doc Holliday was as this flawed hero. Doc Holliday felt more like Ringo. He felt more like the Doc, whereas Wyatt Earp felt. I guess there's really nobody in Stagecoach that Wyatt Earp felt like because none of them were perfectly virtuous people. Maybe the sheriff, you could argue, or maybe more like Mallory, even to where there's the flaw. There are flaws, but most of it's a virtue. But either way, that's why for me, Doc was the one that was the most interesting. And I'll tell you the moment where that stuck out to me the most of this film with Doc as a character moment. It's when it's about halfway-ish through the film, where he's in his room and he's staring at his doctor's certification on the wall. And he's got that shot of whiskey in his hand. And you get that image of, you just see his reflection in that certificate. And it's that picture of, this is the man that Doc used to be, represented in this certificate. He was honorable. He had this practice. He cared for people. And then he takes a drink of that whiskey and he throws it and it shatters the glass on the certificate. And for me, that was the shining star moment of the film. When Doc took that whiskey glass and he chunked it at that certificate, shattering the glass and making just almost like he was trying to burn everything of who he was, because of the low state that he found himself in. And then Chihuahua, again, she was just entertaining. That opening scene with the poker house where she's back there behind Wyatt Earp going, and he catches her, and then the trough ensues. From that moment, she had my attention as a character and as someone who was just fun to see. And the naivety of her to think that Doc loved her, and maybe he did. I mean, to an extent, I would say he did absolutely love and care for her, but he was never going to be with her the way she wanted him to be.
And he loved her because she loved him.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a, we love each other. It's in a, she adores him, so he adores people who adore him.
Right.
And at least at that point in his life.
Yeah.
And that's why he wanted Clementine gone, because she was just that reflection, that idea of him who he wants dead.
Yeah.
Right? The person he believed he could never be again, who he proves he could be. Right?
He does.
Just in a sacrificial way. Which, for someone he doesn't know.
Yep.
It was like, wow, that is true character work right there. And Wyatt Earp and Clementine Carter, they belong together because they are virtuous.
Yeah.
And in a way, Doc Holliday and Chihuahua did belong together because they're all about him, and also they're messy. They're not perfect people. They're liars, and they're scoundrels, and they are just they struggle.
Yep, they do.
And I felt like the character work and who he paired people up with, and as we dive into scenes, how they follow scenes with each other, Wyatt, Earp, and Clementine, and how everything kind of works.
How they interact with the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how they interact with each other after knowing certain information, right?
Right.
So, if you're ready, I'm ready to talk about some of the scenes that
By all
describe
means.
My Darling Clementine.
Let's do it.
And so, for me, one of my favorite moments of the entire film is 2 scenes back to back.
Okay.
You have this scene with Chihuahua and Holliday, where Chihuahua begs. She begs Holliday to let him go with her to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, please let me go with you. Please take me. He goes, why not? This sort of like, okay, sure, you can come with me.
Just to appease her.
Yeah, he's amusing it. Which, again, if you've ever watched a movie, you're like, he's not taking her with him. he has no intent of taking her with him to Mexico.
Mm-mm.
But it'll appease her and get her to shut up.
Yep.
And he's clearly hungover. He's clearly struggling. He's not feeling well. And right at that point, he's like, I need her to shut up. I don't know if it's the very next scene, but it's very soon after.
Okay.
You see Wyatt Earp. He's getting his hair done.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting a shave. He's smelling like honeysuckle.
Yep.
Oh, because everybody talks about, I can smell that honeysuckle in the air, and he goes, it's me. Just went to the barber.
Yeah.
Like, oh, somebody's trying to smell good for somebody, right? And so eventually Clementine comes back up, and she asks him to go to the church service.
Yeah.
Again, you see all their characters in that instance, because when she asks him, it's not a begging, it's not a pleading.
Right.
It's a, will you go to church with me?
Because he had no intention in going before.
And he had no intention in going before, to which she asked, and he goes, okay, I'll go with you. And it's not a submission. It's not a, oh, I'll go with the pretty girl. It's, she kind of makes me want to try to be a better version of myself.
Yeah. He's delighted to go with her. He gives her his arm to escort her in a way. Mm-hmm.
And she assumes he's going because of the person that he is. She's like, I assume, like, I think she even says, I assume you're going. Like, would you mind going with me? To which he says, well, I'd be honored if you'd go with me. And you see the differences in their characters all in those few moments. You see Doc Holliday being begged and pleaded for, to which he reluctantly allows her. And in this moment, there's an honoring, because Clementine is a representation of that purity.
Right.
She is that better version of himself that he could be, and she would make him want to be.
Yep.
And that was one of the scenes that really stood out for me, as far as the 4 main characters. You see all of them in those moments, and it's really good character work, and it's a really good story. It's very plot driven too.
Yeah.
It is leading to a point, right?
Okay,
You're
corral.
seeing the virtue of these people. You're seeing the depravity or the recklessness of these people, and what that could lead to. And it's just handled spectacularly.
Yeah. It is.
That's one of my favorites, but I would love to hear some of yours. I have other ones, of course. But
Right. Well, we mentioned the trough scene. So that was the first one that I noted going into it. And it's that scene right at the beginning. You know, Wyatt Earp is just he's still hanging out in the town. He's now decided to be the sheriff, but nobody really knows him much. They don't have much respect for him. He's just kind of a guy that's there. And he's sitting here and he's playing poker with a couple other guys. And he has this line that I like, that I think feeds into Wyatt Earp as a character. And he's sitting there playing cards and he says, I love poker. every hand a different problem. And that line, that every hand a different problem, to me really encapsulated who Wyatt Earp was. Every day it's a different problem. Every problem I'm going to take and I'm going to face it. And I'm going to find a way to play it through or to bluff it through if I have to. And then, of course, you've got Clementine going back and forth at the poker table, looking at the hands, looking at the cards. And she lands up there behind. Yes, sorry, Chihuahua.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, no, Chihuahua. Clementine's not in the picture at this point. She probably won't be at the card table. But no, Chihuahua's going back and forth, and she looks at the businessman across from Earp, and she goes, letting him know that Earp's got a 3 of a kind. And Earp's no dummy. He sees this, and he starts talking to the man about it, and he's like, now you've raised and you've bet, and I've seen, and blah, 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 and he's explaining the situation that he knows just happened. And then he slams down his cards, and that scene that you mentioned, he takes Chihuahua by the arm and says basically, come with me. And they have it out at the trough, to which she ends up in the trough.
She slaps him.
Yep.
And he throws her in the trough. And it's really funny, too, because if you notice, when she's in the building and she puts her leg up on the table, she has these stockings on, right? These things that are like, obviously, are pantyhose or whatever you want to call them, are like very prominent in there. But when she's thrown into the trough, they're missing. It's like, oh, just a little continuity error there. But that's all right. And so that moment is so funny because you learn that he really is no nonsense. He just throws her in the trough, and she's like, ah! And
she's so offended and so caught off guard by the fact that he just threw her in the trough.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because she plays the scene really well. She is really good at being that, oh my gosh, like kind of damsel in distress, but it's not overacted.
Right.
It's perfect. It's just like true shock and awe that he just threw her in the trough. So good.
And I just thought about this too now as we were talking. I didn't think about it watching the movie. But he throws her in a trough, almost like he's baptizing her. He just picks her up and he just throws her under the water to just wash away he's washing away all of her junk, all of her crap. Of course it doesn't work. And that's probably way more deep and theological than Ford was going for. It was probably just funny, throw the girl in the trough. But that was just
a great thought for who Wyatt Earp is, right? And I think what's another great scene that really works well in this film's favor is how in Stagecoach you're watching it and you have the action that is the chase scene for 5 minutes. Where before you get to the shootout at the OK Corral, it's a very suspenseful, quiet intrusion.
Yeah.
And it works for me equally as it does in Stagecoach because it's taking that opposite approach.
Yeah.
It's building that tension. You've arrived to this point where we're going to get revenge on the Clanton family.
Yep.
You killed my brothers, and you've run this town for long enough, and it's probably a result of the lawlessness that is Tombstone, and it's time to put Tombstone out of its misery and take you guys to the cleaners.
Yep, time to clean house.
They do.
They do.
It's a fantastic scene. It's a sacrificial scene because the other thing is, too, whether it's played for intent or not, spoiler, of course, but Doc Holliday dies in the line of fire. Shooting for a family of people he doesn't know.
Yep.
But he's also doing it for himself. He's doing it because he's proving that he could be this good man. And
for himself and for Chihuahua.
If he's going to redeem himself, this is the way to do it.
Yep.
And he does. And he redeems himself, at least in the standing of the town. Whether in the eyes of the Lord, who knows? But
right.
Standing of the town, he redeems himself. And there's this, it's not this moment of grand of grandiosity. It's this very quiet. He's shot, and they see him, and they move on.
Yeah. And really, that whole shootout is not a moment of grandiosity. It's not. It's not the chase in Stagecoach. It's very calm. It's very steady. It's very unexciting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it really is. It's just, here's a shot, boom, 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 boom. I mean, and then that's really all it is. I mean, most of that scene is that steady approach, that talking, that Doc and Wyatt and everybody getting into position for what's about to happen, and then it's boom, 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 and it's over. Yeah, it's very, very in contrast with what you get at the climactic moment of Stagecoach.
And you see who John Ford is as a director as he continues to kind of adjust and accommodate for the film. Because in Stagecoach, that moment at the end of Stagecoach is what the movie needed.
Yep.
And for My Darling Clementine, it's what the movie was leading to.
Right.
It wasn't just going to do a big shootout scene for shootout scene's sake. It was, if it fits the tone and it fits the theme, that's how we're going to do it.
Yep.
And he handles it, in my opinion, perfectly. And Doc Holliday, it is realized he's just a man. There's no really like, it's just a respect. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time.
Right, of course. Well, I think the last, not counting the shooting, I mean, the shoot 'em up we've talked about. The last one that maybe we hadn't talked about is just the church. When they go to the church and they're dedicating this, basically it's just a tower with a bell, is all that's there so far, and a hardwood floor. And there's this line, the preacher, it's not a preacher, it's not a clergyman, it's just a guy who's kind of acting as the preacher, because there's not a preacher in Tombstone for obvious reasons. He gets up on the podium and he's dedicating the church. And he's talking about the nice floor, the nice hardwood floor that they've got. And he says, "I'm not a preacher, but I've read the good book cover to cover and back again. And I ain't found one word against dancing."
Mm-hmm.
And I just immediately, as he said that, I thought of Footloose. The way that Footloose uses the Bible as a way of forbidding dancing. And he's like, "I ain't found one good word against dancing. So get out there and tear this floor up." And I just thought that was funny. The way that contrasted with the preacher in Footloose. And then, of course, you've got that beautiful dance sequence where they just film everybody dancing there on the floor, tapping and moving and shifting and changing. And then Wyatt Earp gets his inaugural dance with Clementine there. Everybody parts, and he and Clementine take that floor and have their moment.
Mm-hmm. And it's a really nice moment.
It is a really nice moment.
It's, you see how they work together. Mm-hmm. They could belong together.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about the trough scene. We've talked about the scene where you initially meet the champagne scene, which is excellent. Yeah. You have Doc Holliday offers to buy Wyatt Earp a drink, and he says, "Champagne," and Earp goes, "Make it whiskey." And they slide the glass down, and Holliday catches it. He slides it back down, and he said, "It's champagne."
Yeah,
you're like,
"You're my guest. It's champagne."
It's cold. It's so good. Doc Holliday is asserting his dominance. He's letting him know, like, I am. You think you're in charge? Let me show you what town you're actually in.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about Doc Holliday in that moment. And Earp, he obliges. He's like, "You know what? I am your guest. Champagne sounds good." And when Doc Holliday, he goes to pull his gun, and Earp just kind of sits there, and you think, are his reflexes really that slow? They're not. He reveals that
I don't have a gun.
He's not carrying. He says, "Well, we can change that." And they throw his gun down the way. And so, but that's not his point. He's not. That scene, I also think, doesn't that scene lead into, it might not be that one, it might be one later down the road where Doc Holliday pulls the gun out and shoots the light. and people are getting anxious.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's that same scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the unhinged nature of Doc Holliday. He doesn't care. He even says, "It's time I tempted fate." Right? That's his like. I'm letting people know like I'm just doing what I want now. Right?
Yeah.
But I think the scene that best describes Doc Holliday's character is the scene with the Shakespeare reading. They go to this other tavern to go get this guy who's supposed to be reading his lines for the people of Tombstone, and these people are crazy. the other tavern he's at, right? It's with the
well, it's the Clantons that are there.
Right? They sort of have taken them for themselves. Taken it for themselves, and he goes and he's reading Shakespeare, and they get mad at him. It's like all you know is them quotes that you're reading. It's like maybe you can't sing, but maybe you can dance, right? And that's when you see Doc Holliday. He gets in there and he tells them to stop. He tells them to keep reading because Doc Holliday is emotionally invested.
Yeah.
In what he's reading. And it's a really nice moment, and you see that element of Holliday, because Earp is kind of like, okay, but Holliday is very much invested in what he's reading. Because he's also reading from Hamlet, right? To be or not to be. And he is hanging on every word because he is dying. And he's wondering if I am to be or not to be. Mm-hmm. What is my role?
Minstrel, pray help me.
Wait, I want to hear this.
Thank you.
And of course, that turns into a gunfight with one of the best lines in the show. We'll talk about in the dialogue as we move into that section. But that scene really stood out to me too, because it's one of the few moments in the movie where you really get to see Doc Holliday's inner, like the other side that's fighting,
right?
The other side that's fighting for who Holliday is, and I think it's a really nice scene, really well done.
Well, and it's so contrary in contrast with the whole rest of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And here you have a rough town where you can't do a quiet anything in Tombstone, and we're reading Hamlet. We're performing Shakespeare in a tavern on top of a table. And it completely contrasts with the brutality and the force and the lawlessness of the rest of the town. And the rest of the film, really.
Yes. And also, I would argue, the rest of the genre.
Yeah.
Right? Because no person watching a Western that loves Westerns is coming into it for a Shakespeare reading.
No.
Because that's completely contrary to what that genre usually offers. And so, as we finish, I'm sure there's some lines of dialogue that I feel like you would like to share.
There's a couple.
And I know in the other one we went, dialogue and then scenes, but switched it up for this one.
There we go.
There's just too many delectable scenes to talk about. They don't need to be saved to the end. We needed to get those out of the way. And there are so many more, right? And I would assume you would recommend this film, ultimately. Even if
I would recommend this film.
Yeah, even if you're not
it's absolutely worth a watch.
Mm-hmm. And so, and I think part of the reason why is some of these quotes we're going to be going into, some of this dialogue. Because there are some great lines in this movie. And so I'll let you start with a couple of yours that I feel like are your favorite. And I'll move off of that.
Well, save for the two that I already mentioned, the I Love Poker and I've read the good book cover to cover. There were two others that stood out to me, and I know you've got at least one of these. I'm pretty sure you've got both because you just alluded to one of them. But it's right there at the end of the tavern Shakespeare reading, where the dad comes in and kind of smooths it all over with Doc and with the marshal, and he sends it on his way. And he turns to his son and he says, "When you pull a gun, kill a man."
Stop, Paul! Stop, Paul! Stop! No!
When you pull a gun, kill a man.
Yes, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that seems like some really good advice. If you're gonna pull a gun, you better kill a man. That's, I mean, that's really in a nutshell what I've always been told. If you're gonna pull a gun on somebody for whatever reason, like in the ways I've always been told, it's if somebody comes in your home and you pull a gun to protect yourself, you kill a man. You don't give him a chance. So that was a line that I was like, well, that makes sense. That's some good fatherly advice right there.
Even if he is a scoundrel and a loser.
Exactly. Even if he is an absolute coward and a despicable man. And then the other one that I know you've also got on your list comes later towards the middle end of the film, and it's Earp and the bartender. And he says, Mac, you ever been in love? And what does Mac reply?
No, I've been a bartender all my life.
It's
so
like,
good.
What? What does that
good.
even mean, Mac?
Because the only people he's talking to are these drunken men.
And these love-worn, love-lost drunks.
And when you're a bartender and you learn all these things about heartbreak and all these drunken men come and talk to you, like, you don't want nothing to do.
Nope. Yep.
You ever been in love? Nope. I've been a bartender. I know what love is about, right?
The only woman that's around his tavern is Chihuahua.
And she ain't hardly worth his time. We'll say that. So, yeah, both of those lines I definitely have. When you pull a gun, kill a man. It's a great moment because he's so disappointed, but he's also trying to offer that advice at the same time.
Yeah.
Like when you find yourself in this situation, don't let it go to waste. Right?
Yeah. If you're gonna sin boldly, as Martin Luther would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the other lines that I have is it's very much a testament to the film. What kind of a town is this? It's one of those things where you realize, what have we really gotten ourselves into? Because this is a mess. Because like, you have no idea what's going on. And it's really well done. And I think it's also set around the same time, right around the shave.
Yeah.
Because
I think so.
A man can't get a shave without getting his head blown off.
Yep.
That's pretty. It's not subtextual, which I really think is funny. It's very much straight to the point because it's very accurate. Because there's about 2 or 3 bullets that fly in that barber shop right before he's about to get his. He's just trying to get a shave. You have that like kind of iconic scene where all the bullets fly in and he kind of sits up in his chair and he's covered in the cream, and so shaving cream, and it just is. It's a really funny line. A man can't get a shave without getting his head blown off.
It is what it is.
And when you have what kind of a town is this in the same script, you're like, I get it. It's pretty crazy. So those are great. Those are great lines. I did have the when you pull a gun, kill a man, and I also had the bartender line. But one line that I found pretty interesting, and I have no idea, alluded to this to you before.
Okay.
But there's a line that Wyatt Earp says to his brother, I believe, right after he dies. He's put the tombstone in, and also I guess I really never admit, well, it's not that I never, it's just, it feels really on the nose to even talk about. Tombstone is a dead town, right? It's literally
right.
But when after he reads the tombstone of his brother being alive essentially for 18 years, he says, "Good night, sweet prince." Which, that line in general, there's nothing really special about it.
No.
But recently, I've rewatched The Big Lebowski 2 times within the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
And there's a line that Walter Sobchak says, and he says, "Good night, sweet prince." And I don't know if The Big Lebowski is making a callback to My Darling Clementine or if it was just a happy coincidence. But the idea that a line that simple might end up in another script of another movie that I also really, really appreciate. Starting to realize maybe that line's a bit more important than I thought. And even though it doesn't have, there's nothing subtextual about it. It's not like this amazingly well layered written line.
Mm-hmm.
But you see Earp's, his sentimental side.
Yeah.
He calls his brother a prince, a sweet one. It's like he doesn't have to call him that. Again, Wyatt Earp, although he's a man of virtue, a man of principle, and he's rugged, there is a soft side to him.
Yeah.
That is pretty honestly forward-thinking for a time like that in the 1940s.
Especially for a man like Earp.
And I wonder if he had seen the film, if he would have agreed with, the portrayal of his character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But that was one line that stuck out to me, but only because I'd seen that other, movie.
Right.
Lebowski, and starting to wonder if they pulled from that line, or if I'm just not well versed enough in film history to know if that line has any more significance.
Right.
But that was one line that kind of stuck out to me, mainly because of that correlation.
Understandably so.
And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that this movie is as quotable as Stagecoach.
No.
I don't think it's trying to be.
No.
I think that it's a different, John Ford was going a different direction. And I love both films. I think both films are classics, and I would love to own both of them. I was very pleased with this. It wasn't a double feature, almost was. But I'm really glad that these are the most recent two films I've watched. And I'm super excited to continue down the John Ford marathon. Because we haven't even gotten to my most anticipated John Ford film.
Well, we haven't even hit his heavy hitters yet.
We haven't.
I mean, these are two of the ones that we thought maybe would be more obscure. So yeah, let me see. What do we got next? I'm trying to find on my...
Mogambo.
Is it Mogambo?
I think it
may be.
That takes place in Mogambo, Africa.
Yes. Yep, Mogambo is the next film we got on the docket, which is one that I'm really excited for.
Yes, I know that was one of the ones you picked.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I picked. It's starring Grace Kelly, which is why what really drew me to this film. Because I've seen a lot of her other stuff that she's done with Hitchcock and other directors for the short period that she was an actress. So I've had it on and off, and I've checked it out and returned it to the library several times. So I'm really excited to get to actually have this excuse to watch this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not even getting to the two big John Ford films until our fourth one, our fourth video. So
I'm looking forward.
Stick around.
Say that again.
So stick around.
Yeah, stick around 100%. Yeah, what a great discussion. I will say, I'm a little surprised you did not like My Darling Clementine as much as I did.
I was too. I really thought that it was going to land for me much more than it did.
Well, and it was one you picked, right? Stagecoach was one I picked.
Yeah.
And My Darling Clementine was one you picked, and it just
was
in chronological order that we were going to get to watch one of our picks, for both of these episodes. But the next one will also be the other one you picked.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm very pleased with our John Ford marathon to this point.
I am too.
I will say, while I might lean My Darling Clementine, it's a tight race because I really do appreciate both of them. One, Stagecoach is more of this, like, almost redneck ingenuity type of filmmaking, where My Darling Clementine is the Hollywood sort of romance slash bromance slash classical progressive type Western that it just is, and it's beautiful to look at. My Darling Clementine is such a good look.
It is. It is a beautiful film.
And I'm just so excited to watch Mogambo as well. I couldn't be more excited for a director. I'm glad that we decided to, take this route. One of the reasons we kind of discussed doing John Ford was because neither one of us are huge Western,
Mm-hmm.
like, film fans.
Right.
And never seen a John Ford film, and he's a pretty important figurehead when it comes to cinema.
Yeah, just a little bit of a big deal.
Yeah, just a little bit of a big deal. And so I'm excited to keep going through his filmography, going through the films we've picked. I think it's going to be a blast. And we can maybe even argue we haven't watched the best one yet, which
many people would say that's correct.
And that is crazy to me, because they are both stupendous films.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we thank you guys for joining us again. As always, listen to the podcast. Please subscribe. Please like. Leave a comment. Let us know. Have you watched John Ford films? Have you not watched John Ford films? What are some things you'd be interested in? Other maybe marathons you'd like to see us tackle? And so we always, of course, encourage listening to other podcasts such as Film Spotting with Josh Larson and Adam Kimpinar, and their sister podcast, The Next Picture Show. We also tell you to watch Blank Check with Griffin and David. These are all great podcasts. They're all, obviously, as Nolan has referred to us before, as refined. They're a little bit more refined than we are. But
these are the ones we listen to when we need some inspiration.
Absolutely.
We take a lot of guidance. I mean, the whole idea of doing a marathon is one that we have borrowed / stolen from our time listening to Film Spotting. So, I mean, these podcasts, we really do stand on their shoulders, and we have great respect, and we give our own personal time listening to these critics and these film lovers.
Absolutely. So we thank you guys again for joining us, and we'll see you next time in the jungle of Mogambo, Africa.
Ma'am, I sure like that name. Clementine.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I'm finished.